Welcome back. Now, you are what you eat, that's what they say, and new scientific research may well back that up. Scientists investigating why primates have bigger brains than other animals point to diet as being the crucial factor. Their findings contradict the conventional theory that it was all to do with social behaviour. Well, now the very big brains of those two rival scientific theories are going head to head. Well, here in the studio with me is Melissa Hoganboom from BBC Earth. And Melissa, we'll get to that rivalry in a moment, but tell me more about this new scientific research that revolves around diet.
Yeah, so researchers at NYU in New York, they looked at over 140 different primate species. So these are the groups that include monkeys, apes and us, and looked at factors such as their social status, their diet, and looked at the relationship between these factors. And they really found that it was diet, not social size, that was the key contributing factor for their bigger brains. They found relationships between animals that eat fruit that tend to have bigger brains than animals that eat only plants, for example.
And this completely turns on its head, if you'll excuse the pun, the conventional wisdom that it was all about social groupings. I mean, that is what has been established for decades now.
Exactly. I mean, you and I talking here, we're using our complex brains to talk to each other, and this is really important when considering how groups evolve. We need to work together and communicate. So the idea was that social group size, bigger groups, were really important to communicate, to get at the food. But now this new study is saying it's the other way around, that to get at the food would give us more energy to then develop these other things like our complex cognition.
It's a fascinating theory, this new theory, because the scientists who've worked on it say that it explains anomalies that have always been there, things like orangutans. I mean, what was the anomaly there?
So yeah, orangutans, they're really large apes, you know, those big, iconic, great orange apes. They have fairly big brains, but they're quite solitary creatures. Sometimes they do travel in groups, but very small groups, mainly for safety factors. But often males roam around by themselves. And of course, they eat fruit, they have big brains, they occasionally eat meat. It's a new finding as well. So they weren't previously considered in these analyses, only looking at the social factors for the reason for big brains, but they've now been considered in this much larger data set, which looked at over 3 times the primate species than had been considered before.
Now, I talked about that scientific rivalry because those scientists that had come up with that original social grouping theory, I mean, they're not taking this lying down, are they?
No, so the social brain hypothesis has been around for several decades, and I spoke to the researcher who was behind that. He's called Robin Dunbar at Oxford University, and he says rather than just brain size as a whole, it's to do with a very specific structure in our brain called the neocortex. So this is an area of the brain really important for social behaviour and cognition. And he says when you correlate the neocortex with group size, then that comes out top, and social factors are still the leading driver. But the researchers at NYU, they disagree. They say that neocortex doesn't always have to be a major factor. They really just have to redo the analysis, only looking at these 2 specific things. And until that's done, we might not get a clear answer.
They have big brains, I've got a small brain, but couldn't the truth of it be that elements of both arguments are probably true?
I think that is one of the great take-homes. So like any scientific rivalry, they do have some agreements. These traits are co-evolving. Our big brains are clearly important for social structures, but also our diet has contributed to this as well. I mean, imagine a large group roaming around the forest looking for food. They need to have a big group to combat rivalries, to find food, you know.
And I suppose, I mean, understanding this is absolutely critical. I mean, you think of humans, in the end, they have got to the top of the tree, and understanding why and the brain size is absolutely critical to that, isn't it?
Yeah, our big brains are really a defining trait of humanity. We've outcompeted so many other species. We're the only human species left alive. The same wasn't true as recently as 40,000 years ago, just think Neanderthals. And a key thing that helped us be so successful is our big brains, and our diet has been crucial to that. Without the energy that the rich fruit and meat provides us, we wouldn't have been able to grow our brains so big, because our brains are really, really hungry. They take up so much energy. We just need to constantly fuel them.
Melissa, a fascinating story. Thanks very much for taking us through all of those details. Thanks very much.